How expensive is bike packing? A modern setup can easily cost thousands. The bike, the bags, the high-tech gear, it's a barrier that can put a lot of people off. But do you really need all that stuff? How much money do you actually need to get started? I decided to find out.
Okay, so here's the idea. I'm going to cycle from the south coast of England to the north coast of Scotland, the full length of Britain, on a bicycle I don't yet have, with equipment I don't yet have, on a total budget of just £100 for absolutely everything. So that £100 has got to cover finding a bicycle, finding all of the gear I need, bags, equipment, everything. It's got to cover food for 2 weeks for cycling 900 miles up the full length of Britain, and it's also got to cover getting home again from the top of Scotland at the end of the trip. I'm not going to use any of my own equipment for this. Everything has got to be found from scratch, and crucially, the only resources that I'm going to let myself use for this challenge are things that anybody else could use. So I'm going to be going to car boot sales, yard sales, I'm going to be going on Facebook Marketplace, using sites like FreeCycle, just trying to find anything that I can as cheaply as possible, and then I'm going to try and go on this trip. And I have just got back from Mexico. If you've been following my journey, you'll know that I've spent the last year or so cycling down from Canada to Mexico, and I just flew in from Mexico only about 3 days ago, and I'm going to be setting off on this trip in only 3 weeks. And that is very scary because I am extremely busy for these 3 weeks. I'm not actually going to have a lot of time for getting this stuff together and figuring this all out. I'm going to have to move very, very quickly. I'm only going to have a few free days. And that is basically the project. So why am I doing this? What is the point? Well, apart from the fact that it sounds like a lot of fun and it's going to be something quite different, I talk a lot here on my channel about equipment. I am a big gear guy. I really like having great equipment because it allows me to push the boundaries of what's possible on a bicycle. It allows me to go further off the beaten track, take on more challenging routes. That said, I've always been very keen to stress that although having the best equipment, having a great bike, having all the fancy gear is wonderful, and I think it is well worth it if you're going to get a lot of use out of it, you don't actually need any of this stuff. So fundamentally, this project is about proving that you don't need a lot of money to go on a bike trip, that all you really need is a bicycle and the courage to get out and do something crazy, put yourself out there, get out of your comfort zone and have an amazing adventure. So I'm going to be filming the whole process of this journey. In this initial video, I'm going to take you through everything I do to hopefully get all the equipment I need, and then I'm going to also film the journey itself, the 900 miles or so that I'll be cycling up the length of Britain with the as yet unidentified bicycle. So to start with, the rules that I have set for myself for this challenge. So obviously the budget is £100. That is the maximum I'm allowed to spend under any circumstances, 100 quid, that is it. However much is left out of the £100 after I've got all the gear together is going to be my spending money for the entire trip. So if I spend only 60 quid on the bike and all of the gear combined, which would be very lucky, I would then have about £40 of spending money for 2 weeks worth of food on this trip. So I am envisioning potentially dumpster diving, washing dishes for meals, mowing lawns for meals, maybe juggling or singing if things get really desperate, doing whatever I can to try and find food along the way, and no doubt eating a lot of really, really boring food. Crucially, I think just need to be getting the bike and gear together as cheaply as possible, because the cheaper I can get the equipment together, the more money I'm going to have for little things like eating and I guess repairs. Anything that comes up has got to all come into that as well. And I've also somehow got to figure out how to get back from the top of Scotland all the way back down to Sussex, where I am currently living, because I'm not going to have time to cycle up and all the way back, and I probably don't think I'm going to have enough time to hitchhike back either, because I've got a trip to Iceland coming up only a few days after this one is supposed to be done. So it is all going to be a little bit tight. I've absolutely no idea how this is going to go. I don't know if this is going to work out. This could be a complete failure, it could be a complete disaster. This video could never make the light of day if I am totally unable to find any gear that I need, but fingers crossed you're watching this, fingers crossed it works out, and hopefully you enjoy following along. So enjoy the video. I am going to get started with trying to figure out how I'm going to get hold of a bicycle.
These days, there are a lot of really great online resources out there for getting cheap or even free equipment. And the first thing I did was to write up a request, which I posted to my local community groups on the websites FreeCycle, Freegal, and Facebook Marketplace, asking if anyone had any old camping or cycling equipment which they didn't need anymore and which they might be willing to let me have. I had pretty low expectations, but to my surprise, within a few days, I'd started getting messages from people in the area offering various bits and pieces which they said I'd be welcome to take. Hi, is that Lindsay?
Tristan.
Hi, I'm Tristan.
Hi,
so
hi,
nice to
hi.
meet you. How's it going?
So it's all.
Okay, thank you.
It's all that. I'm afraid
okay.
you didn't pack it up from.
No, that is amazing. Wow, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Yeah, this is kind of the big one. The tent and the bike are the two biggest things. I can make do with almost everything else, but these are the two I can't. I have a tent. Ah. Oh, I'm so excited. I have a tent. This is a big deal. This is the first big thing that I really needed, and I have a tent. I still don't have a bike, and I'm leaving in 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, so a little bit concerning, but I have a tent, so this is a great start. Ah, amazing. What a day.
Alright, so this is hopefully a free sleeping bag. This might be it. So that is a very good result. Free sleeping bag. Thank you, Jane, on Facebook, whoever you are. But now I have a sleeping bag and a tent. Still need a bike, but this is good progress.
Hello? Hi, is that Kathy? Hi there, how's it going? I'm Tristan.
Come in.
Hi there, how's it going? Nice to meet you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate
It
you.
sounds really exciting what you're doing.
No, thank you. That looks fabulous. I think that'll probably do the job. Looks great.
Got the hood in there.
Yeah.
So I haven't had out. So.
Well, my plan B, if I couldn't get a rain jacket, was to use a bin bag as a liner. So this is far superior to that. So I think this would be great.
I've had it for so long.
Ah.
I kept it in the car in case I needed it, and I'm going to
Just
try it
gonna
on.
pop that there if I can.
I hope it fits.
Thank you. That looks great. Oh, it's perfect. It was even quite stylish. That's brilliant. That's a big step up on what I expected to be wearing. Thank you so much. I was feeling pretty happy with how I was doing, but with less than 2 weeks to go, I'd still made no progress on finding a suitable bike for the trip. I'd been checking Facebook Marketplace every day, but hadn't found anything in my rather miserly price range that I felt would be up to the job. I decided to change tack. There are recycling centres all over the UK, where people can drop off all kinds of household items, and I figured there was a chance somebody might have chucked away an old bicycle that I might be able to do up. I stopped by my local recycling centre, and I actually did see a few old bikes in a fenced off area, but when I inquired if I might be able to take one, I was told that there was already a local business that collected all of the bikes every week, and that I therefore wouldn't be allowed to take one for myself. I called up that local business, explained what I was doing, and after a bit of a chat, the owner said that if I could find something I wanted, he'd be willing to let me have one for cheap. I stopped by and ended up spending a good couple of hours browsing through what was more or less a bicycle junkyard, trying to find something that might work for my trip. Most of the bikes were in a pretty bad state, as their business model was to sell the bikes in bulk containers, mostly shipping the bikes out to Africa or Asia, where they'd be repaired and then sold cheaply. There were a few in better condition, but none that were quite right, and I was actually in the process of moving parts between multiple bikes to try to create some kind of Frankenstein's monster bicycle, when something finally caught my eye.
So I have a bicycle. I am absolutely thrilled with this. I've got this home now, and this is the bike. This is what I'm going to be riding, hopefully, all the way to the north coast of Scotland. And it is absolutely brilliant. I found this right at the back. It was more or less blended in with the shrubbery, but it is exactly what I'm looking for. This is an old Peugeot steel city bike.
That's funky.
So this is a steel frame. This would have been built probably in the 70s or the 80s, so it's significantly older than I am, and it is, I think, going to be absolutely perfect. So the bike is pretty rusty. It's got rust basically everywhere, all over the frame. The drivetrain, the pedals, the wheels, absolutely everywhere. But it does look like it's pretty much superficial. It's surface level rust, so that should mostly come out. The drivetrain is actually in really good nick. So although it's very rusty, the cassette is still looking good. It's not too worn out. Same with the chain rings at the front. And the best thing about this bike is that it has friction shifting. So that is the old style sort of bar end friction shifters that you've got on the down tube at the front. And the fantastic thing about that is you don't need to index it. It will just keep going. You can adjust it with fine detail manually. So it is just very, very reliable. My first bike had friction shifters like this or similar to this, and I got something like 18,000 kilometers, about 11,000 miles out of one chain and one drivetrain, which is a very long way. So this, I think, should actually be really, really good. And the chain even looks like it's in good condition too, once the rust has been cleared out. It's a 2x5, so a 10-speed bike, 5 on the back, 2 on the front. It's not got the lowest gearing, so hills are probably gonna be a bit of a struggle, but I reckon this will do perfectly. We have cantilever brakes, front and back, and the brake pads actually even look like they have a bit of wear still on them. So actually, I think they might even survive the whole journey to Scotland if I'm very lucky. Got this very, very snazzy bar tape on the front, which is fantastic, and the brakes are actually working really, really well. So that is fantastic. The rims, as I say, a lot of rust on those at the moment, so the braking is not going to be great until that's been cleaned out, but I think that is going to work out just fine. The first thing you always want to do when getting a second-hand bike is check the wheels, give those a spin and just sight down them and check if there's any significant wobble. And the good news with this bike is that both wheels are spinning pretty much true, very little wobble on either of them. So that is really, really good. There's no unpleasant clunks coming from it. The tires, the tubes are actually holding air as well. And the tires are actually pretty good. There's a solid Schwalbe city tires, and there's still a decent amount of wear on them as well. So that's fantastic. They might well survive all the way, touch wood. It has a rack, which is super important for this trip because that's how I'm gonna be carrying the stuff, the various luggage that I've managed to get. So having a rack built in is absolutely fantastic. And yeah, it's absolutely perfect. It is a road-centric bike. I made the decision pretty early when planning this project that this was going to be a trip mostly on road or maybe a little bit of light gravel. The reason for that, I mean, I normally do ride quite rough off-road. That's usually my preference, but it is just so much more forgiving riding on road and smoother surfaces. You can get away with a much looser setup. Everything has to be much more dialed in if you're going to ride the rowdiest stuff. So for this trip, it is going to be mostly on road, which is going to be a cool twist. I don't normally do too much of that stuff. So this bike, I think, is going to be absolutely perfect. Needs a bit of work, needs some tender loving care for sure, but I think actually this is going to do a great job. And it's got style, this bike. I mean, it's beautiful. It even comes with a free cable lock in there. I just have to figure out the combination. I'm probably gonna have to spend a bit of time just going through and trying, you know, however many combination attempts to get this figured out. Provided I can crack the lock, I'll have a free cable lock too, which is absolutely brilliant. And the saddle looks good. And it's, oh, I just love it. And it's got these very snazzy red and blue cable hoses at the front. Look at that. Brilliant. Oh, wonderful. I'm absolutely thrilled with that bike. And I only paid £10 for it after a bit of a haggle. £10 for that bike. Can't get anything for £10 these days. I am absolutely buzzing right now. So I've got some work to do to get it cleaned up, and then I need to take it out for a test ride and figure out some luggage. But that is a major step forward. It looks like this project might be possible. So I have had a small setback. I was putting my seat post up last night because it was way too low, and I discovered that the seat post this bike comes with is only very, very short and was not actually going to go high enough to let me pedal properly. And cycling 800 or 900 miles on a saddle that is too low is a really good way to mess up your knees. So it is important to get this right. Unfortunately, this seat post is just too short for me. It just won't work. So I had to go back to the scrapyard, which I've just done. And after an enormous amount of searching, it turns out that these seat posts have to be exactly the right length. And especially with the older model, this is, as I say, probably a 1970s bike. And with these ones, they made a lot of different sizes. Today, seat posts are usually standardized But these ones, there's a lot of different options, and even 0.5 millimeter out is kind of no good. So after a lot of searching, I haven't been able to find one that fits exactly, but this was the best I could do. This seat post is a little bit too small, so it isn't quite right. It does go in, but it is in danger of falling in all the way without actually clamping. So what I'm hoping is that this will just about work. I might have to just wrap some duct tape around it. You can fix anything with duct tape, and it is a steel frame, so if I just really crank it down, I'm hopeful that it will work. I have to just hope this is gonna work. This is all bike packing really is having problems, figuring out a way to fix the problems, and then moving on until the next problem comes. This is pretty much bike packing. I guess that's life too. But anyway, so this is the latest challenge, has been the seat post, and hopefully I've solved it. Got to be very careful not to drop this down the seat post or I'll never get it back out again. But anyway, fingers crossed, I'm gonna be able to get this sorted. So terrifyingly, this is the last day. Tomorrow is the big day when I'll be setting forth on this bicycle to cycle from here, from the south coast of England to John O'Groats, to the top of Scotland. And it's very daunting because it's still quite rusty and it's held together with, with bicycle inner tubes and good intentions, but I am fairly confident this will maybe work. But this is it, this is the full setup, and I think I have everything I need. So all of the stuff I'm gonna be taking with me on this whole trip is sitting here on this table right now with me. And I'm now gonna run through everything I've got and how I'm gonna pack it on this bicycle. I obviously got very lucky with the handlebar basket here, which I got was basically brand new. Someone just gave that to me that didn't want it anymore through Freegal. So I was very, very fortunate that that one is great, it fits. I may have to rig up something to sort of hold it up a bit because it might sag into the wheel once it gets loaded up. But yeah, that looks great, very happy with that. And I did have a rack with the bicycle, which is also fantastic, even though it's a really bad rack, but it still is a rack. So what I've gone with is the good old fashioned Sainsbury's shopping bags. So these are just 2 grocery bags that I already had. I feel like most people probably have some shopping bags, and these are worth, I don't know, 60p or something, I think, if you have to buy these, but I'm not charging myself 60p for these because I did already have them. And these are just rigged up using some inner tubes to the rack. They're not going to be very stable, but they should do the job. And in the outside pannier, I'm going to throw my sleeping bag, which I was very kindly given for free through Facebook Marketplace. So this should just slide on in, hopefully. And because it's a very rigid sleeping bag, once rolled up like this, it should just form a bit of a kind of rigid structure for this pannier and stop it rolling into the wheels. Well, it's not great, but we'll see how that goes. So that is the sleeping bag on that side. I have my sleeping mattress, which I got for £3 on Facebook Marketplace, and seems very good. I think it's only been used a couple of times. This will hopefully squeeze into the same bag, just about. Yes, just about. So that's just about squeezed in there. And that's pretty much everything that's going to go on this side, on the left pannier. The right pannier, what I've done, because it's going to have odd bits and pieces, so what I've done is I've taken a small chopping board, which I've pinched from the house I'm currently living in. I will return this. And I've just put that in there to provide a bit of structure to the shopping bag. And in here are going to go the essentials, I guess. So in terms of clothing, I'm going to have one set of clothes that I'm going to be wearing on the bike. And then I'm going to have one change of clothes for the evening. So this is nothing special, these are just normal clothes. This is a long sleeved top for the evenings. I have a couple of pairs of boxer shorts to change into. I have a pair of just basic jogging bottoms. These are, again, not technical, these are just like sport trousers. These are just going to go in there. I have my toiletries. It's toothpaste, toothbrush, deodorant, and a beard trimmer. That's going to be the extent of my toiletries. It's in there. I guess got some other bits and pieces that could go in. Maybe the rain jacket can go in. So this is the free rain jacket that I was given, also I think from Freegal. Very, very heavy for what it is, but I do need a rain jacket. Well, maybe I won't, but I think I probably will. And that's going to sit in the pannier as well, and that's going to be the last thing that goes in there. Okay, so that is the panniers just about done. They are full. You might be wondering about waterproofing, and the solution I have is bin bags. Basically everyone has a bin bag, so I don't think I'm going to charge myself for a few of these, but yeah, a couple of bin bags on each side. If it looks like rain, I can just quickly put all of this stuff into a couple of bin bags. That'll keep everything completely dry. So that solves the waterproofing problem. And that leaves my tent, which is the other thing that's going to go on the back here. This is the free tent, which I got on Freegal. I have put this up. It's really important when you're going out on a trip like this to make sure you've tested your gear, particularly tents. And I put it up. It is slightly broken, but it should just about do the job. And hopefully it will keep me dry if it does end up raining. But this is the tent. It's big and weighs about 4 times as much as my usual tent, but it should do the job. And that is just going to sit on the rack there. I'm not going to sit here and make you watch as I figure out the bungee looping system, but I was able to get some free bungee cords, and this is just going to be looped onto the bike on the back there. All right, so that is the tent and the pannier system. I've got everything clipped together here. Friend who climbs gave me one small carabiner. So that is what is being used to hold these 2 bags up and keep them from sagging into the wheels. But that is looking pretty good, I think. That should hopefully hold together. I then have a few extras on the front. So the first thing is a pump. It's obviously pretty important. I was given this by my little sister who has a bike and who kindly lent me her pump. But I figure most people are going to be able to find one person that has a bike pump that they can borrow. So that is my bike pump. That's going to go in the handlebar bag there. I have a couple of spare bungee straps. Bungees are always useful, and if anything goes wrong, I might be able to use these to lash up some kind of fix so they can go in the front. I was very lucky and was given some dry lube, I should say. So this is just chain lube. That's obviously necessary to keep the chain running. That can sit in the front. I have my patch kit, which I had to spend £2.50 on because I was unable to find a free patch kit. And that is also going to go in the front. Hopefully I never need that. We'll see how it goes. I have a little bike light thing that actually I was given by also my little sister. So that, I guess, can sit somewhere on the wheel maybe. Don't know if this thing is gonna get much use. It can't really go anywhere else, but yeah, that works. So I got a little bike light on there. I have a couple of inner tubes that are the wrong size. So these are too small for the tires that I've got on here. They might just about work, at least for a while. They might stretch enough to make it work. But in any case, I haven't been able to find any other inner tubes for free that are the right size. And I can't justify the cost of buying some inner tubes new. So until I can find something better, those are gonna go in the handlebar bag there as well. I have another inner tube that is way, way too big that I was given. This is a mountain bike inner tube. That is definitely 100% not going to work, but the inner tube is actually quite useful as a sort of strap. You can cut these, you can use them for things. So I am going to take one extra inner tube. Next, I have some tools. So these are just regular spanners. I pinched these from the toolkit of a friend, so I have to return these at the end. But these are just for this bike. This is an old school bike, so it just uses nuts and bolts instead of the modern kind which need Allen keys, but there are enough tools to get to everything on my bike. That's obviously important. I have a Swiss Army knife. Now, I considered not allowing myself this, but I have had this since I was a kid, and honestly, I feel like everyone should own a Swiss Army knife as well, because these are just so useful. So I am also going to take my Swiss Army knife. That's probably just going to go in my pocket, to be honest, but those are really useful for repairing anything. I have some sun cream. I'm also not going to charge myself for sunscreen because, again, I feel like everyone can get hold of sunscreen, right? You've all been on holidays and stuff. But this is basically it. That's everything. I don't think I've forgotten anything. I forgot there are a few things I didn't include in that. Firstly, a towel. This is very important. You always need a towel. That is literally just a regular old hand towel. I'm sure you've all got one of them. That's going to just go in the back pannier. Vital to always know where your towel is, obviously. And I've got a hoodie. That is just a basic bog standard hoodie. If you haven't got a hoodie, just a warm jumper, some kind of warmish layer. Nothing technical about that. It's just a hoodie. That's also going to sit in there, and that is going to round things out. In terms of the panniers, that's everything on that side. A spoon. This is just a standard spoon. I'm a spoon over fork kind of guy, so I'm going to take one spoon. from the kitchen, and I'm gonna take that one back. And lastly, I've been given a Black Diamond. This is a climbing chalk bag, which I've been lent. I do have to return this, but I am gonna then use this as a bottle storage device. So I'm gonna have to figure out some way to rig that onto the handlebars, but that is gonna sit there, and that is gonna allow me to put a bottle or some food or something directly onto the handlebars for very quick access. The only thing which I haven't covered just there right now, and what you can't see on the bike, is my camera gear, because I am going to be filming this adventure so I can share it with all of you guys, but that isn't something that you need to do, so I'm not including camera gear in this. I will figure some way out to carry all the cameras, the audio gear, the tripod, the drone. I guess I'll probably go with a hip pack to keep that close to myself so I can access it quickly, but as I say, that isn't something that you need really. So this is it. This is the setup. This is everything I'm going to be carrying, and see how heavy it is. It's actually not terrible. It's not light, but it's not as atrociously bad as I thought it might be. Oh, I also have managed to crack the lock, which is amazing. I got lucky last night when playing around with it, and I managed to figure out the combination. So the bike lock is now in full effect, so I have something to lock this bike up with when I go into grocery stores. This bike is obviously incredibly desirable, so thieves will be all over it. So being able to lock it up, even with a very flimsy cable lock, is nice to have. But that's the setup. Anyway, that is all of the gear. I am very, very happy that the bike and the gear has cost me £15.50. And whether this survives all the way up to John O'Groats, to the top of Scotland, remains to be seen. I honestly don't know if this trip is going to work. I am quite nervous. I think I'm more nervous to set out tomorrow than I have been for any trip I've done in quite a few years, even the genuinely dangerous ones, because I really have no idea how this is going to go. I mean, I have no idea what's going to happen on this one. So that is it. That's the trip. That's the bike. I'm going to be setting out tomorrow morning, bright and early, from Brighton Beach, from Brighton Pier, and then riding north, and it's going to be about 1,450 kilometers, a little bit over 900 miles to the tip of Scotland. So we will see. This is at least possible to get the gear, and whether it's possible for the gear to survive is a different question. But here we go. This is it, and I think I'm ready. Wish me luck.